to our October 7th council meeting. Council just came out of closed session, discussion of land purchase. There was no action taken. Work session. Does anyone have anything to change on the council discussion? On the agenda?
I think one thing is sort of,
Mr. Mayor? I mean,
He's talking.
I can't hear him.
maybe this will help. I have one thing, Mr. Mayor, what I think no longer needs to be on the agenda, and that's old business number 3.
What is he?
Old business number 3, the farmer's market vendor complaint.
Well, that's up to Rich, because that's Rich's.
That will
Well,
not
it's,
be removed. That is not my intent to remove that.
right,
What I
well-
wish to remove from the agenda is, Mr. Mayor, please excuse me, is under old business, item number 5, Jaguar Lair site visit. I understand that the staff will be doing that with coastal communities, and we'll wait for a report from the staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Is there any other council discussion?
I have a question as to whether we need to have old business item number 4, federal government dredging review, which called for a discussion with Robert Neal from Moffett and Nichols. We're going to have the presentation and question and answers then. Do we still need to have a session later in the meeting to review that same material?
I don't have any objections removing that, Mr. Mayor, as long as we finish
have
with
him
our
here.
discussions with Mr. Neal.
Okay, that'll take off. Old business number 4, federal government dredging review, and number 5, Jaguars Alar. Well, that's good. Is there anything else?
I think it's a little early in the season for old business number 3. The festivals are just starting, and
Could you please use the microphone?
I'm using,
I don't. Cindy.
I'm just making a statement. I think it's a little early to have this discussion because the markets are still going on, and we're right at the beginning of festival season.
What discussion on what topic are you referring to? I can't hear, I'm sorry.
Number 3.
Old business number 3.
Old business number 3.
No, I think that needs to be discussed, and there's some history behind it that I think the people should know.
Okay, I just wanted to express my opinion.
Thank you.
Now, all right. The farmer's market is the vendor complaint, correct? Rich?
Yes, that is item,
That's a vendor's complaint for 2019, correct?
vendors, old business item 3.
Right, but the vendor complaints are from this year.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't need a history lesson. We're working on
Well,
2019.
people need to understand something.
It's going to be a problem. Okay,
Council discussion?
council discussions.
I have 2 items I'd like to bring up. One, just let people know, if you saw the Brunswick Beacon on October 3rd, that former town councilman Wilson Sherrill was recognized by the Brunswick County, by the North Carolina Realtors Region 2 with a service award for 2019 for his contributions to local, state, and national association as well as their community. So Wilson continues to contribute to the community even though he's no longer on the board. The second thing is I want to say thank you to Mr. John Farrell for coming into town to have a discussion with Councilman Nern and myself He had raised some questions over liability issues as being a member of the Environmental Resource Committee. We had a good discussion, and I'd just like to report that both Mr. Nern and myself welcome his appointment that was made on 17th of September to the ERC.
Also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recognize on October 30th, we have Trick or Trunk with the police department by the planetarium. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, are you finished?
Are we done? Anything else?
That's it.
I'm
Charlie?
going to bring up one thing, and it has to do with these continued questions coming up about the dredging project and the false complaints and the false questions concerning segments of the dredging project. A letter in the 26th September Beacon, the writer asked about his request from 5 council candidates and 2 mayoral candidates to answer 5 questions about dredging. Question number 4 asks, do you believe the dredging project should be paid by all of the taxpayers or just the impacted owners? Who should pay has been discussed over and over at council meetings and in the press with the same answer. The impacted owners will pay. I'm going to repeat myself. The impacted owners will pay.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, I'm
Rich?
not done yet. The writer knows the answer to this question, but continues to ask the same question over and over to fog the issue in his attempt to delay the dredging project for an even longer period. The longer the dredging is delayed, the higher the cost may be to the impacted owners. And maybe that's the point of these rumors. I would not have voted for the dredging project if the costs were to be borne by all taxpayers, and I clearly stated that during the dredging discussions. I want to make sure that everyone understands the impacted owners are paying for the dredging, not every other taxpayer. It's not going to be paid with by tax dollars. I'm done.
Done? You got anything, Rich?
Yes, I do.
For
I read
council
with-
discussion?
We've been dealing with the dredging program for just about 5 years. And I read with great interest in the Beacon that Ocean Isle Beach did a survey. And for the life of me, and as a matter of courtesy, I requested this many years ago and have brought it up a number of times. Ocean Isles has just saved millions of dollars for their taxpayers by extending this courtesy. And according to the Beacon, they were not interested. This is not about pro or anti-dredging. This is about courtesy and taxpayer input. And I'm disappointed that this council has failed to do a survey like was done in Ocean Isle, and they should be applauded. Secondly, I was not here on the meeting on the 17th. And I was a little disappointed that Mr. Farrell's nomination to the Environmental Resource Committee was not unanimous. And when I listened to the video and watched the video, I thought it was painful in the sense that he is beyond qualified. And we hire people based on qualifications and what they will contribute to the town and to the staff. And if they question, they have a right to question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mr.
Jan?
I was the one that made the motion at the July 2018 meeting that the burden of paying for this project outside of what the grant pays would be borne by the affected property owners, the impacted property owners. At, I believe it was our August meeting, Mr. Soretto had our counsel here, and it's my understanding that my motion at that meeting was deemed illegal. And if that is the case, we don't have anything solid yet.
I'm confused.
I wish someone could clarify that for me.
Real quick, the reason that's not solid is you still have not held the public hearing to authorize the project yet. You can't make a determination that establishes how this will be funded, how it'll be assessed, linear footage by parcel. None of those details can be made until you've heard from the public in an official public hearing. You will make those details when y'all decide to go forward with the project. You can make it known through consensus what y'all want to do, which is what this council's done and the previous council has done, that it'd be borne by those directly affected. But legally, it's not established until after you hold the public hearings for the project, once you know the details of the project. The same thing is with right-of-ways, with anything that we do that may be assessed. That's the process that has to be followed. Public hearing, decision on the project, decision on the details.
Mr. Mayor?
You done there?
Jack?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, this is a horse that's been beat to death. This council has talked about this for my 4 years, and the consensus is that only the property owners affected will pay for this. So I don't know why we waste our time on topics that we discuss for hours and hours and meetings and meetings.
A couple of points here. Even though the resolution that Ms. Harris had proposed is still not fully active and under the state laws, it was a resolution of intent that the entire council said that we want the property owners to pay. And further on down the line with that, several years back, 2014, legislation was approved so that once the initial dredging is paid for, then a maintenance tax district can be set up. We would be joined into one that already exists for Ocean Isle. And the property owners would continue to be taxed every year to put money together to pay for the future maintenance requirements. That was one point. The OIB survey. Yeah. My answer has always been, we need to know what we're going to survey before we ask the questions, and we're still waiting for CAMA to approve. We have 2 surveys that have been underway. Department of Environmental Quality has done a survey of all the property owners, notifying them of the plan to do the dredging, if it's approved and permitted, and ask for their opinions. A second one is now underway where the Corps of Engineers has asked all the property owners for their opinions on this project. And where that comes into being is what was left off of the comment about the OIB abandoning Jenks Creek, is that the survey was not to all of Ocean Isle Beach. It was to the Asheville Street property owners and canal property owners, the property owners along the waterway who would be asked to pay for it. They were the ones to survey. And with the amount of land and lineage to be surveyed and the estimated cost, it would have been about $18,000 per property owner. All right, so the point, it's, again, apples and oranges. You know, our property owners have been surveyed, are being surveyed. The Ocean Isle Beach was only property owners, and the cost of them would have been $18,000 per property owner, approximately, based on the reporting that was in the Brunswick Beacon. And then last thing on the comment about the ERC, there was a concern that was raised about liability and what indemnification that ERC members would have. There were several stages to this process, and in my mind, I wanted to have a discussion with Mr. Farrell to make sure that we were on the same sheet of music, that he would be working and serving and working for the town. And that, I'm completely convinced of that, and that was a good discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I can respond, please. I think we're missing the thunder. Before you spend nearly $6 million, whether it's grant money or taxpayer money, you provide a courtesy. You survey the taxpayers. When government sends out a survey, they say, this is what we're going to do. Do you have any comments? And that's what we're missing. We never asked the taxpayers if they wanted to participate. I was told exactly 4 years ago when I made this request that we needed to get all the facts first before we provide a survey. We have all the facts. This dredging program is not going to start minimal November 2020. And that is even now in jeopardy because of the Corps of Engineers concerns. So what is the rush? We've already spent $600,000. And we have a grant plus the taxpayers' contribution, the impacted owners, is another $5.4 million.
Mr. Mayor,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah, that's all he's saying, but he fails to tell you that he contacted the grant people in Raleigh and asked them not to give us the grant money, knowing full well that that would kill the project. And that Mr. Serrato, for 3.5 years, has been telling people Sunset Beach he was for dredging. Now, if you're for dredging, why would you try to get the grant money taken away from the people of Sunset Beach? That's the truth.
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I have a right to respond.
Make it quick.
There were appearances of conflict of interest that the state required those who were involved in appearance of conflict of interest were required to sign a statement, period. It had no delay. The program's not going to start probably until 2021. So please do not use excuses like that for the delay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Let's call the regular meeting to order.
Well, this
Will
is
you
fun.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Does any member of the council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to any item on the agenda? And if so, please state so at this time.
No.
No.
Mr. Mayor, I am a member of the Merchants Group, and there's an agenda item regarding the vendors. I am not here representing the Merchants Group. I am here representing the complaints that I received
Why are
from
we
the
talking
vendors.
about this before it's called on the agenda?
Conflict of interest.
Oh, I see.
There's no, this is his agenda.
Okay.
Go ahead. I didn't realize you had a conflict, Mr. Serrato.
Why? But
It's full disclosure. Mr. Nern. Thank you.
So who has the conflict?
Apparently.
Okay, action and discussion resulting from the closed session. We've already discussed that.
Public hearing.
We need a motion to open the public hearing for the Oyster Bay Road closure.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Does anyone need to speak on the Oyster Bay Road closure?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second public hearing, Article 10 landscaping text amendment. Does anyone need to speak on the landscaping
Need to
text
open
You
amendment?
got it. I move we open the public hearing.
I
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have anything to say on the landscaping?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those were easy.
Is Robert here?
Yes, he's here.
That was it.
Next up will be the dredging permit update. Robert Neal, Moffett Nichols.
Maybe it's the sliders.
Bob, if you could
You've got a copy
speak
of
to
it
the
right
mic.
here.
Cindy, could you?
Absolutely. Council appreciates the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and as always, it seems like things happen right when we're supposed to have the council meeting. But so what I would like to do is update on the dredging project, and a lot of things have happened today as they continue to move. But we'll talk about, if my pointer works, of course not. There we go. Thank you, Cindy. So what I want to talk about today is three things. One, the overall update on the permit application for the dredging, and we're talking about the Jinks Creek, South Jinks Creek, Feeder Canal, and Bay Area, those systems, the dredging for that area. Talk about three things: the overall process, the overall status of that permit review, and then talk about the most recent conversation we've had with DCM or the state related to concerns voiced of the about the beach placement area, the beneficial reuse placement area. And then also we'll talk about the federal update, which is not necessarily in there, or the permit review for the federal side of things. And so with that, just wanted to show a quick graphic of what exactly we're looking at here, the areas to be that we're proposing that are included in the permit application for dredging. South Jinks Creek, just the beach compatible material right around the curve to Tubbs Inlet, and also the feeder channel, which has 4 finger canals connected to it, and then the Bay Area. The South Jinks Creek is the only site that has beach compatible material. This is about 40,000 yards. This will come into play when we talk about that site, but we also show the beneficial reuse placement area between 5th and 12th Street on Sunset Beach, and we'll talk more about that later. But again, just wanted to give a graphic for reference of exactly what we're talking about when we get to that. So talking about the overall permit review, looking at that, and from the state side of things, from Division of Coastal Management, they're essentially ready to issue a permit decision. Their clock expires this Friday. They do have the opportunity to extend it, but they are trying their best to issue a permit decision, either denial or issuance, by this Friday. And they've not told me exactly which way they're going to go, but I think we all know. But with their decision, we expect that there'll be a condition in that decision, that we expect that they will issue a permit. I expect that they will issue the permit, but it will be conditioned so that we have to provide a deep water connection. And one of the major concerns of this project has been dredging of North Jinks Creek or Tubbs Inlet. And the North and the South Jinks Creek is just terms I've thrown out there. They're not any geographical designation there. There's just one's more to the north and one's more to the south. But the concern has been staying away from what we're calling North Jinks Creek because of the potential shellfish impacts. But in so doing that, we have eliminated our deep water connection to the Intercoastal Waterway. There's also a potential to go through Tubbs Inlet, but we have not. We have strayed away from that for the potential environmental impacts. So the anticipation, the expectations are that they will issue the permit with the condition that somewhere we must connect to deep water. Our permit does not provide that. My understanding is town does not want to pursue that. So with that condition in the permit, we will then take that to the Coastal Resource Commission and ask for a variance request. There is a CRC meeting in November 19th, I believe. we have to submit a request for the variance 6 weeks prior to that meeting. That deadline was today. So we expect that the earliest we'll be able to get to a CRC meeting for the variance request will be February 20th, February of 2020. I don't know the exact date in February, but it'll be February of 2020 will be the next CRC meeting, and the first opportunity at this point, I believe that we have, first reasonable opportunity that we have to submit that variance request and have that variance request heard and decision made. So in short, we expect from the state side of things that they will provide, they could provide and I say could because of the topics we're going to discuss later, they're on track to provide a permit decision by this Friday, and we would take that permit decision, evaluate what it is, and then make the decision on whether we want to move for a variance in February of 2020. The variance would give us a yes or no on the project. If the variance is denied and says that we have to provide a deep water connection, then the town has a decision to make if they want to make a deep water connection or abandon the project. If the variance is accepted and we do not have to provide the deep water connection, then we continue the project as is and plan for construction. But that's where we're at on the state side of things. Essentially, they could issue a permit decision by this Friday, and we would prepare a path forward from that. From the federal side of things, as I believe everyone's aware, going through the state permit, we had quite a process for doing the property owner notification. We were told we sent out 3 notifications by mail and then even used social media. We were told we needed to use social media to contact any property owner that had not responded, and we did that to the best of our efforts to satisfy the state requirements. The Corps of Engineers has come alongside and said the same thing. They wanted to, based on the comments received, they wanted to conduct their own notification process to the riparian property owners or the affected property owners in the project. So they, instead of proceeding under the CAMA process, which is a joint process between the state and the Corps, instead of proceeding under that, the Corps broke away and said they want to do their own thing. They want to do their own notification, do their own process, and are requiring an individual permit. No additional money needed, no additional actions really, except we provided a property owners list to the Corps of Engineers. They take it from there and do their thing. They are in that process for the notification, property owner notification. Expect that to be completed by October 24th. At that point, they will evaluate the comments that have come in. They will give the town an opportunity to evaluate those same comments and respond. And then the Corps will take all of the comments, both town responses and the property owner's original concern, and they will evaluate everything and make a permit decision for themselves, for the federal permit. The federal process does not in any way affect, alter, or change the variance request with the state. The variance is a state process, and so it can happen separate and will be happening separate from anything we do on the state side as far as the variance request. So the Corps of Engineers, I expect their decision will come a long time before we get to the variance, but it in no way impacts or changes or affects the variance request that we expect to be headed to the Coastal Resource Commission. And then, so I'll stop there before we get to the next and just make sure, is there any questions on the permit review process or where the overall status is? And we'll talk about beach placement or beneficial reuse. That's the last topic to talk about. But the overall status, is there any?
Robert, the
Yes.
question is, when they do the survey, the CAMA, is that just for the property owners or the affected or the whole town?
That is the riparian property owners in the project.
Only, okay.
Only. Same with the Corps of Engineers, the property list that we provided, that the town provided.
I have a question. I think I know the answer, but I would like your clarification. Okay. We've had some letters from oceanfront property owners that are somewhat concerned about that. But my question concerns who will pay for that, and I assume that would still be the riparian property owners because that's part of moving the sand.
The
Is
compatible
that
side.
correct? The compatible sand.
The cost share is town decision.
Yeah. He hadn't got to that part yet.
But
Yeah.
to talk about, if we want to talk about, if we move forward and we have overall
I
status.
still have questions. Sort of two questions in there. One, can the Corps of Engineers kill the dredging project based on the survey that they're doing? Do they have the authority to overrule the state and say no?
Neither the state nor the Corps will kill the project. Neither one of them will say no. They will say what concerns they have and allow the town to address them. My understanding is until the town says, we're not changing, this is our permit, at that point, they can deny or approve. So their comments in this, we're not at that point yet. The Corps will issue a statement of findings for the environmental assessment. But
Question.
or-
Is it not also possible that the Corps will attach conditions to, that the town would have to meet to get their go-ahead on that? That is possible, is it not?
yes, and that's when they voice their concerns, they could do that in the form of conditions.
And that's what CAMA can do also with the permit when they give it to us. That's the
Absolutely.
bit for the variance.
Absolutely, that's,
You know, so basically, we're still sitting at the point that we do not know what, if anything, can be dredged.
correct, until the permit is
Okay.
issued,
Okay, so we're still lacking one key detail in this project.
yes. And even once the permit's issued with conditions, we have to decide, do we want to go through the variance or abide by the conditions?
Do we want to do it?
Yes.
With those terms?
Bob, I get the sense that the feds have flexed their muscle in the sense that the last scoping meeting that I attended, I think it was in April of 2018. I wish it was 1918. We could start World War I again. No. Some days I feel like it's 1918. They made a suggestion at that meeting which removed North Jinks Creek from the dredging program. And I think we all know the reasons for that. Could they do the same thing for South Jinks Creek? Because it's adjacent to Tubbs Inlet and all the environmental concerns and the flooding and erosion?
I want to go back a little bit to the North Jinks Creek comment. They, at the agency coordination meeting, they made a comment that in order for them to approve the dredging, they would need to see the permit go through without North Jinks Creek as an alternative. If we want to dredge something, they could require an environmental impact statement or some type of additional work in which we would need to evaluate different alternatives. They said one of those alternatives, in order for them to consider the project, one of those alternatives would need to be not dredging North Jinks Creek. So they've not taken it off. They've just said we needed to evaluate not doing it.
Robert,
Did not the town council then at that time make the decision to separate North Jinks Creek and take it off
yes, we did.
our application?
Yes, that's my.
Yes, so that they posed the obstacles, but we made the decision to do that and not try to force it through.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Robert, I got a question for, I'm sorry, yeah. On the DCM, November 19th, they're going to make a decision, correct? And that's the Division of Coastal Management for everybody. And we're going to miss the deadline for, today was the deadline for us to put, for a variance in.
Yes.
Can't we ask for an extension of 3 days so we can push it in for this year?
We could try.
Can we try?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have more to talk about, but
Okay.
Mr.
It's only a
Neal?
couple days. I thought we-
yes.
Do you have an estimate or any idea of the time frame for an environmental impact statement and the cost of an environmental impact statement?
For this project, I would feel better looking more at that. No, I do not right now.
Thank you.
Bob, can I ask you just a quickie? I get the sense today's government, they never say no. They come back with conditions, but they can make your life miserable. And I get the sense that's what they're doing. They're making it maybe not miserable, but very difficult. Are they trying to tell us something? I mean, if we removed South Jinks Creek from the dredging program and North and any association between the two of them, this program would have been approved. Is that correct? No. No? Even if we removed North or South Jinks Creek, the dredging program for the canals would have never been approved?
No. No, we're in the same boat. We're in the same boat whether we include South Jinks Creek now as if we do or if we don't. We still would be looking at a variance request because we're not connecting to deep water. We're not connecting to the Intercoastal Waterway or the Atlantic Ocean. So South Jinks Creek, removing that would not move the project forward.
I have a question. If we changed the depth of the dredging so that we aren't going deeper than the area water, which is Jinks Creek, then that would speed up the approval of it, wouldn't it? We wouldn't have that problem with
Right.
that particular rule that's in the
Would not
CAMA
need a variance.
regulations.
You would not need a variance if we did not. if we
And
connected
that's
deep
what
water.
all previous canal dredgings have done, is meet the specifications
Right.
that are in the CAMA rules.
Where we're
Right.
dredging.
We've had a
yes.
number of dredging projects for the canals, and they all went through without a hitch. So it's this fact that we're going deeper than we've ever gone before
Right.
that's causing us the problem.
Perhaps part of the problem is that the dredging has, the period of time since the 2002 dredging has had so much filling that's taken place that it needs to be dredged deeper to be effective.
Well,
I've got a question or sort of a comment.
If-
It appears to me that the state and the government agencies are really being especially careful and diligent, micromanaging, checking everything on this particular project, more than they do on other projects up and down the coastline. I think a lot of the reason for that is that based on the history here in Sunset Beach of the potential and the threats that they would be subject to being sued if they approve the dredging, it's causing them to do that. And they're being especially careful, and I think we ought to need to understand that. That's why they're being so diligent. And we do have a track record. And you know, things like raising my potential conflict of interest after our lawyer had said 2 times, possibly 3 times, that there was no apparent conflict of interest, is the type of thing that really scares the state and the federal and the local agencies.
I believe that they have been so diligent because they have received a number of concerns from citizens of this town, and I'm not talking about just some that have been named by people on this council. I'm talking about people out there, general property owners have concerns about this project.
I think,
I've received letters, I know.
yeah, I have 2 from the same 10 people that write 20 letters from the same house, to the same agencies, and put a hold on this project for over a year now.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just say a couple of, because sometimes I get a little confused. Is there any reason why we cannot survey the beachfront property owners to see if they want the additional sand? You mentioned that in your letter this afternoon, or something to that effect, of talking to the beachfront owners. And I think it would be, I've received a number of letters, and I'm sure the other council members have, and I'm sure the town has. They do not want the sand. This town is accreting sand. It's consistent sand. They don't want the sand in front of their beach property. And they shouldn't be forced to have it if we don't need it.
They may think twice if a hazel hits here.
And that takes us into-
And the fact that, we had several meetings here that showed the sand from the compatible areas. It's identical to the sand that's on the beaches. Sometimes they made mistakes in Holden Beach and Ocean Isle, but I thought Robert did a very good job of testing the samples, and they were identical, other than a little bit darkness, and that would change immediately in 6 to 7 weeks in the sun. So there are worries. I mean, the sand would only protect their homes better, Richard, not worse.
And
I
that
wouldn't
takes
use
us-
sand.
Mr. Neal,
The,
Mr. Neal, is it not true that for 2 years, any turtles that nest in that sand will have to be moved? That is the case at the Oak Island renourishment projects. They have to move the turtle nest. And also, is it not true that we will then be obligated to monitor that renourishment area, and we will have to pay for that monitoring?
Real quick, Robert, I'd like to announce that. Charlie, real quick. I talked to Carmel. She's the one that does our turtle program. She said category that would not affect. Other islands have done it, has not affected the nest. This is a scare tactic, again, not to get the dredging done. Experts are saying it doesn't hurt the turtles. Why bring up the turtles? Did you talk to Carmel? No. But
No, there is one, the immediate year post-construction after a beach nourishment, a large-scale beach nourishment, turtle nesting success does go down. The relocations only occurred during construction. So if we construct during the winter, there would be no relocations because there'd be no turtle nest.
I talked to Carmel on Saturday, and asking about the turtles and the bird nesting, and Carmel told me that the birds would, even if they were disturbed, would come back. And that for the turtles, if the pipe pumping the dredging material was there during nesting season, it would definitely disturb the turtles. Other than that, she did not think they would be disturbed. And like Mark said, it's scare tactics. And one thing we do have to make sure is when we're pumping this sand onto the beach, that it is not any time near turtle nesting.
If it were scare tactics, I don't think the Army Corps of Engineers would be concerned about it. And the Army Corps of Engineers has put it in their papers to us that they are concerned about the birds and the turtles and other species.
I got a question, Robert.
Okay.
Why did we pick that area of the beach? What was the reasoning behind saying it's going to be between this street and this street?
We initially looked at Ocean Isle Beach because their shoreline is eroding. They indicated they would take the sand, but would not pay for the sand, would not pay to get it there. So we said, if Sunset Beach is going to pay for the material, then they should benefit from the material. From that point, we looked at the shoreline and what area we understood Sunset Beach is accreting, so we thought we could get a project partner. Could not. So what area on Sunset Beach would be most benefited by it? It was right after Hurricane Matthew, and that area from 5th to 12th, south, I guess east of the pier, was the most impacted by Hurricane Matthew. Not to say that there was grave impacts, but from a visual standpoint, and we didn't survey, we just from a visual observation, this area appeared to be the one most impacted. So, and it's also away from the inlet. We want to keep the material away from the inlet so we didn't just go right back in. So we did come, I wanted at least 2,000 feet away from the inlet, preferably 5,000 feet, but away from the inlet and an impacted shoreline that we could move the material to. So it came from that, from visual observations of what Hurricane Matthew did.
Is it not also correct that the area between 5th and 12th Street is where the old Tubbs Inlet was? I believe it's so. I have an aerial photograph here that you can all look and see where the old one was and the new one was built. And in this area where the Tubbs Inlet came at a stream angle was between 5th and 12th Streets. Here it is.
Mr. Neal, we,
That means it's a weak place out there.
So why not put more sand?
I just,
I'm not saying not to add sand. I'm just saying, is that not a consideration?
we can't survey the turtles, but can we survey the owners?
Well, that, if I could.
That's a statement or a question. And the other question that I have that boggles my mind is, and it's what, to me, Jan is, knows this stuff like the back of her hand. Are we saying that if we didn't dredge at the depth level that we recommended to be compatible with the surrounding depth levels, that this is what's holding us up?
Yes.
You didn't say that.
Hold it.
No.
Is this what is holding us up? Is this what has taken us
That
4
is,
years?
that is a rule that is in the CAMA regulations. You can't dredge deeper than your
I looked
connecting
up
water.
that rule.
That is a rule in the CAMA regulations.
out.
And we are breaking that rule.
Is this why this program has been held up all these years?
I don't know about all these years.
Well, it was recommended we started 5 years ago.
Well, the
I was not on
depth,
council,
the
I don't know.
depth of the dredging, if we did not dredge, if we maintained the deep water that's out there now, if we did not dredge deeper than what's out there now, I would not recommend dredging, because it's not going to help you. At -2 is the controlling depth right now. -2 mean low water, so you have 2 feet of clearance at low water on average. A typical vessel has at least 18 inches of draft. So, I mean, you're bumping out there now at the controlling depth.
Yeah. Bob, here's my problem. I have a boat. Can I reconnoiter or navigate South Jinks Creek during high tide?
There's 5 feet, there's a 5 feet
Yeah.
tidal shift, yes.
Can I navigate it during low tide? No.
Experienced.
See, my point is that during high tide, we don't have a problem, just like the entire East Coast. Is it me? Why can't I just wait for high tide? I mean,
Mr. Mayor.
really?
We're going back on.
Mr.
No,
Mayor.
we're not
Yes.
going back, because we're learning.
Mr. Mayor,
We're learning.
if I can real quick,
Go ahead, Hiram.
Robert's getting ready to go into the beach reuse sand stuff, so those questions, might get answered in a few slides, but I would like to ask that since we have such a heavy agenda and so many people here, can we at least keep the questions for Mr. Neal in his area of expertise and not deliberation amongst the council? That can happen on an agenda item later. The questions to him should be at least some that he can answer.
Well, I have a few questions about the
And that,
Well, he's getting ready to go over the
I'm sorry.
reuse stuff.
I thought he wasn't gonna be able to,
no, so there's 2 slides left, 2 slides left. And so the activities that have occurred today is DCM, Braxton Davis, and which is the head of DCM at this point, as well as their attorney. We all talked about this. They have received, in their words, quite a few comments and concerns over the beneficial reuse placement. It would not affect their issuing of the permit, but they do believe that the town may not be able to obtain easements because of the negative concerns. So they have asked if the town wanted to hit pause on that permit review to see if there is another location to put the sand. Again, they'll issue the permit. It doesn't. We're not breaking their rules in the beneficial reuse placement. That is standard practice. But they understand once that permit is issued, there is a chance to challenge that permit, which that's going to happen. But if we cannot get the easements, then we will have to modify the permit, and then there would be a second opportunity to challenge. So there could be two opportunities to challenge the permit as opposed to one if we change now or reevaluate, perhaps talk to the property owners and see if we can solve their concerns. But that is where we're at now, and there's a couple of options if we wanted to move down this path. The first, we would have to recognize that November CRC meeting the variance request would not be heard at the November CRC meeting. That would be out if we choose to hit the pause button. And by the pause button, we can put the review on applicant hold. If the town puts the permit on applicant hold, at any time they can take the permit off of applicant hold. There's only 4 days left in the review period. That 4 days stays. If we have an applicant hold for 30 days, as soon as we take the applicant hold off, they still have 4 days to review it. So as long as we don't change anything substantial. If we change the placement area, that would be substantial. So they would have an extended period of time to review. But it would not delay, it would not give that second opportunity for a challenge. With that saying, if the challenge is successful or unsuccessful the first time, you would expect it to be successful or unsuccessful the second time. So it's send you one, and that's so the available options that we have. That as I'm bringing forward, there's a numerous amount of options, but one option would be to place the permit on applicant hold, try and address the concerns with the property owners to see if there is a location we can place the sand, whether it be Ocean Isle Beach, whether it be someplace else on Sunset Beach, whether it be Oak Island for that matter, or Myrtle Beach, whatever. We could once we go through that process to the degree that we're comfortable with, we take it off applicant hold and move forward. Another option is if we choose to place it on Ocean Isle Beach, we know that's an okay. We know Ocean Isle Beach will accept it. The problem is they will not pay for it. So that would be Sunset Beach paying to place the sand on Ocean Isle Beach. That's the only way from those discussions that will happen. That's an easy selection, be easy to pass through permitting, but it would be more money from Sunset Beach. The third option is we let the permit go as is and deal with the challenges, if any, as they come, and work through the easement process as we can with the year that's left. My thought process and what I don't have an answer to is which way gets us to the variance request the fastest. That is my goal, is how can we get to the variance request. These other issues are important and we need to work through them. But we don't know if we have a project. Placing beach material sand, beach compatible material, will be easy. It will cost. There will be a financial burden in some fashion to somebody. But we can easily I can find a place to put beach compatible sand. The problem is, can we dredge South Jinks Creek, the feeder channel, and the Bay Area without a deep water connection? So my goal and my determination is to find the path to get to the variance request the fastest. And so what I am asking is, would the town wish to move in that same direction, move to whatever gets us to the variance request the fastest in order to figure out if there is a dredging project or not, or what has to be done to have a dredging project. And then, and when I say that, what I want to do, this started today, dialogue with the attorneys, with the state attorneys, and trying to hear their guidance as to what would be the fastest path to that variance. And that's what I'm asking the council is that, and perhaps we don't need an answer right away, but that's sort of what I'm asking is, would the town feel comfortable moving in whatever direction gets us to the variance request the fastest?
Bob, can you do us a great favor? Could
Yes.
you send Hiram a list of all the options that we have?
They're right here.
The main three are on the presentation.
Are they listed on each one?
Bulleted.
Robert, I got a question for you. If you go back to the dredging areas, the areas where you're talking 40,000 cubic or yards of sand, cubic yards of sand, the compatible
Send me
sand,
that slide too.
that
three.
compatible sand, can we pump it to the right, the east of that area where we're dredging? So we just leave it there and make that sandbar bigger, but dredge into the South Kings Creek?
We could potentially mechanically dredge it, put it on a barge, let it dry, and then place it there, yes. I believe, I need
That's
to
an
check
option.
on that.
Okay.
There is potentially an option, I would need to verify that.
So, number 3, I think, when you meet the homeowners on the ocean front, you would show them the compatible sand, explain to them that would be a protection and not a harm to the beach. The letters I've gotten from the homeowners, that they think it's gonna be, coarse sand, not the same sand, look different, feel different. And if we convince them that it's gonna only enhance their property, make them safer, I think that's the place to put the sand. Because I was here there, Matthews, and that erosion was great at the pier. It was, 6, 7 feet deep, thick, cutting through the dunes. Good job.
Mr. Go ahead.
John.
Is this on?
Yeah.
Cindy?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound on.
You went out.
Thank you. Have you, this is sort of multiple part, have you seen the questions and the concerns that the people have had? I mean, there was like I'll call it a fact sheet, I'm not sure exactly what, that was shared.
It's on
That, that talked about the amount of sand, how deep it would be, how much it would take and further move the dunes out towards the ocean. A lot of impacts that I really am not in a position to evaluate, but have you seen those, and are you able to address those concerns as to whether they are accurate or valid or not? And also with that is, what do we need easements for?
We would, well, this may be, my understanding is the properties, the parcels of Sunset Beach extend to mean high water.
Right, mean high water.
Mean high water.
Okay, we're not going to put the sand up on the dunes, we're going to put the sand down on the beach area.
On the beach, yes, but above mean high water.
Yeah.
So we would be putting sand on private property and needing to put construction materials and personnel on private property. So without their easement, we could not, it would be a temporary easement, construction easement, but we would need to put a place to put the pipe. So we would be crossing their lands.
So when we're looking at the dunes, where's the mean high water point? Approximately, I mean, that's,
It's about where the waves, where you would put your feet in the water,
High tide.
at high tide, yes.
okay. And is that averaged out over the course of the year? We have a lot of different levels of high tide.
It's averaged out over a course of 19 years.
Okay. So I mean, the point I'm asking is that very rarely is that point where you put your feet in the water up at the base of the dunes.
Correct.
Very rarely is it up to the point, although it does happen, is it up to the point for any length of time where we have our garbage cans lined up. So it seems to me that the mean high tide would be further toward the ocean than that point, and would our pipes and drains need to be up at the base of the dunes or in our emergency path?
They would need to be at the base of the dune.
And that would constitute a need for an easement. Okay.
Robert, the only question I have is, I'm sorry.
I think I get a turn here.
I have to-
Thanks, I know. We did have a lot of emails from people about the placement of the sand, and it was like one person wrote the letter and everybody else copied it. So a lot of this is based on misleading information And I have some questions. One, will the beach level between 5th and 12th Streets increase by 6 to 8 feet?
No.
That was a no. in case you
1 to
didn't
2
hear.
feet? I mean, how much will they increase?
The beach will look, we're matching the existing elevation at the toe of the dune, so we will extend out what we call the berm, or the place you put your towel on the beach. So from the grass, we cannot place fill, we cannot fill above the native vegetation line. So where the grass grows, we cannot place above that, we simply can't. The design that we've chosen here is the same as Ocean Isle Beach, Carolina Beach, Wrightsville Beach, Curie Beach. Every federal project, we took the federal project, their berm design, and just translated their same elevation as to Sunset Beach. So it's the same design as they have, just changed the elevation. We are referencing mean low water, so that is where that 9 feet came from. Our design, in order to make sense to the dredging, we referenced mean low water because that is the clearance. You want to reference the clearance at mean low water. We have 6 feet mean low water, means we have 6 feet at all times on average of clearance. So all of our elevations reference that datum of mean low water. There's a 5-foot tidal difference on Sunset Beach. So we're 9 feet at mean low water, means we're 4 feet at mean high water. So we're placing it simply at high tide, roughly 4 feet above that line, which is where you put your towel if you're laying out on the beach. So we would extend, there would be, initially after construction, there will be a platform that comes out. The rest of the beach will slope down to the east and west, and the beach in front of these houses will be a nice, wide, sandy, level beach at I say nice and wide because I'm an engineer and that's what we like. But so that's probably not the right words. It will be a wide, level, sandy beach at the elevation where the grass is. So that would allow, it will push the water, the mean high water, away from the properties in that area. It will create a obstruction, or the shoreline will not be straight initially. After I would feel very comfortable saying within 6 months we couldn't tell we were there, but definitely, I think I would say even after the first cold front you couldn't tell we were there, but because of the small amount of material. But I understand the concerns with this is simply the fact that we are mechanically placing material on a project on a beach that has never had, unless we count the original dredging, but has never been permitted for a beach restoration or beach sand placement.
Mr. Neal?
I wasn't done, Jan. And my questions are based on the concerns in these emails. Will non-compatible dredging spoils from the canals be spread on the beach?
No.
A couple of these have been covered. So if you know, will the placement of the Ocean Isle Beach terminal groin affect the amount of sand migrating to Sunset Beach?
No. I worked on that project a little bit, but I don't believe they're related significantly. I guess there would be no significant change based on that terminal growing.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jen.
Mr. Neal, I have 3 short questions, and they're based on the citizens' concerns that they've outlined in their letters. And you mentioned tonight that this sand will be placed on private property.
If we move forward, yes.
If we move forward, correct. And as such, because this project is paid for with public money, that property will no longer belong to those homeowners. Their property will be reduced. Their size of their property will be reduced.
That occurs
Because that is public money that's being spent renourishing that beach.
in a bit, and that's the difference between a beneficial reuse, in other words, dredge material, we're not, as opposed to a renourishment or restoration. In a beach restoration, in large-scale beach restoration, where the project is to protect the property owners, then yes, the state records a first line of static native vegetation, and that becomes the property line. For beneficial reuse, there's no such process like that, so there's no change, there's
So
no property.
that it does not take
It
away the
does not take
property
away the
owners?
property owners.
Okay, thank you. The second concern that I happen to believe, because I've walked on Renourished Beach and I've walked on Sunset Beach, and there's a huge, huge difference. They are concerned about how the beach will walk, how it will look. It will not be the same color for a good while, because we all know it's got to dry out. And it will, if you walk on Ocean Isle Beach and you walk on Sunset Beach, there's a huge difference in how the beach walks. And I had one more and I've forgotten what it was. Sorry.
Well, I would like to see the town. Oh, I'm sorry.
From conversations I've had, I understand it is the principle of that you're placing material there, so it's always going to be different. And there's nothing I can do for that. That is a principle that we try to match, and we have cores. We've only sampled, I think, 8, 9 spots, tubes 4 inches wide through here, but we can go out and look at that sand and walk on that at low tide and see what that is, and it will be that will be the sand out in Jinx Creek. We can walk on this shoal that's shown and at low tide and feel that sand, and that is the sand that's actually finer than what we're placing, but that will be the material. And so I can say whatever, but essentially the best way to do it is we just go out and look at it. And walk on that and say this is it. This is what we're doing. And I mean I can give my opinion, but I understand that does no good.
Until they see it, they're not going to believe.
Either one way or the other. It either is a that is the sand. So it's.
My only question I have is Oak Island we sell it to Oak Island or give it to Oak Island?
They've already stated they would not. We could revisit the issue, but the first go around they said they would take the sand but would not pay for it.
Is that normal in the state, not to pay for the sand that's, we're paying for?
I would like to see the town at some point.
It was new to me.
Hang on, Rich.
I can't, go
Let
on.
him finish.
For them not to pay for it, I mean, from their perspective, it was not enough material to benefit their property owners in order to go through the process.
Maybe you can tell the people, what's 40, what is it?
40,000.
How many truckloads is that?
Oh, it's you get 12 yards
12
a
yards.
truck, so it's 100 trucks is 1,000 yards, so 400 and some trucks.
So that's not enough land, that's not enough sand to sell? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just
400.
close hopefully this by saying, I think that the town should prepare a survey to the beachfront property owners outlining the advantages and disadvantages and to ask them for their opinion. I don't know why that's so difficult to do.
And Mark, I apologize, it's 4,000 trucks.
Yeah, 4,000. Rich, I think they're going to do that. They're going to contact the property owners, and Neil's going to meet them. That's one of the options.
I understand that.
So he's going to do that. So why do we need a
I
survey?
read it in the letter today.
So why do we
That's-
why do we need a survey?
I want their input. That's all.
Well, go with Mr. Neil at the survey in person and listen to him. Why should the town spend $25,000 for a survey?
What are you talking about, 25,000? Stop making
Whatever it
silly
is.
statements. $25,000 for a survey.
So my question is, the sand on the beach, the only reason we're doing that is for cost.
Yes.
That is the bottom line. So if we want to incur the cost, then we don't have to argue about any of this.
Right.
We can just take it and send it to the landfill, which is a waste.
Can't go,
No, you
may not
can't.
be able to do the landfill. We may be able to find a private upland site that could store the sand until it was ready to be placed on the beach, but we cannot dispose of it completely without a variance request.
Well, I like to give Neil the instruction to go forward with his 3 ideas and come back to the council once he talks to the homeowners, see what the cost is to go into Ocean Isle, into Oak Island, come back to the town council. That's what you want to hear from us?
Well,
No.
what I'd like to, can we, in that process, can we move, are you comfortable moving forward with what the state's attorney says or believes is the best path, the fastest path forward to get to the variance request? That's,
That should be the driving concern, I think.
I agree with John.
Do we need to do a motion?
Would you repeat what that fastest path,
I don't know the fastest path. That's.
you
my
don't know
problem.
what the fastest
I
path
don't know what the
is?
fastest path is.
So Hiram, do we make a motion to have him go forward?
If y'all want to go ahead and make that decision, then yes, you need to make a motion to have him. This is impacting how we're going to proceed with the permitting process. Basically, you're giving him the authority to either put our permit on hold or go ahead with it chancing an obstruction from a civil action. Or any combination of the above, of meeting with people and everything like that. You're leaving it. So either y'all need to determine the best course of action, which my opinion would be, if we're seeking that variance, finding out the fastest way to that variance, we can figure out what to do with the sand after the fact when we know what the conditions are.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
So I have a motion.
Yeah, John.
I move that we instruct Robert Neal and Moffett and Nichols to proceed to get to the variance request in the fastest possible way, while simultaneously surveying, meeting with, discussing with, as necessary, the property owners between 5th and 12th Street to find a resolution to this, putting the compatible sand on the beaches.
I second.
Is that doable?
With that, I would like to add that we'll proceed to a point that there's no additional cost. I'll do as much as we can. If there's additional cost, I'll need to come back.
Okay. I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Could you, Lisa, could you carefully read aloud for me the motion?
Motion, instruct Robert Neal, Moffett and Nichol to proceed to get variance request fastest way possible and to meet with 5th through 12th Street property owners and then to proceed with no additional cost.
He's still going to try to meet with the property owners between 5th and 12th Street to reach a resolution on the sand discussion.
Right.
But still proceed with the best course possible so that we can get to the CRC as fast as we can. We're still going to try to figure out the resolution with where to place
Yeah,
the sand.
It doesn't seem like it should take a long time, although some may not live here.
That's going to be the
And-
trouble.
And there may be multiple owners per unit, because sometimes they split them up.
Well, Roger, you do FaceTime and all that for those people, correct?
How long would that take, Hiram?
We have no idea. I mean, if we put the thing on hold, maybe 30 days is what we've discussed.
Now, is that
today.
the only part of the motion? That's it? That's the motion?
No, the motion is to have him proceed with the fastest way possible to get to the CRC for a variance request. And at the same time, figure out what we can do with that sand by talking to the homeowners 5th through 12th to see if there's a resolution that we can meet.
Now, help me out. What's the variance request for?
Once the permit is either issued with conditions or denied for
Whatever.
cause, we seek a variance to proceed with our dredging project to avoid having to go to deep water. It's the same thing we've been discussing for the last year about this variance. It's to avoid having to go to deep water. It's so that we do not have to dredge North Jinks Creek. That's what we'll be seeking the variance
Comes in
for.
that.
And we've been in agreeance with that all year long, that knowing that they're probably going to make us go to deep water to seek out a variance as fast as possible.
Jan, do you understand it?
Yes,
Do you have any concerns with it?
yes.
Could you please express them?
Well, the concerns are, I don't know what, I have trouble saying yes to something that I don't know what it is I'm saying yes to.
No, I understand. I feel the same way.
When he finds the path to the variance, won't you be discussing that with us?
Yes, and that's
I mean-
perhaps that's a better path is over the next, the council meets twice a month.
Yes.
Perhaps over the next week or so, we resolve what is to happen today, and that's why I don't have the answer.
At the very least, and should be expected and has been done multiple times, he'll report it to us and we forward that to the council. You will know every time that we get something about the dredging project. So if your concern is what that path is, we were going to come back to a council meeting to tell y'all anyway. You're instructing him to find that path. You're not instructing him to proceed on to the variance.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
okay. So it's just.
I understand. I
the
just-
path.
It's to find the path and find a resolution for the sand.
I would,
I'm okay.
Didn't we just vote on this?
It's a stalled vote. It's 4 in favor and 1 depending.
So Rich, what's your vote, or Jan, what's your vote?
I thought you
I
voted.
hadn't voted.
Oh, I thought I heard you say aye. I'm sorry.
No, but
It's 3 in favor and 2 pending.
Well, no, I'm okay with it now.
4 in favor, 1 pending.
yeah, I mean, can you do me a favor later on tonight? Put down the factor for me. I'm not going to withhold this because I don't want to be blamed for withholding the dredging program for the past 5 years. So I will say yes. I'll join Jan.
You join all of
And
us.
John and Charlie and Mark. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert.
Wasn't that fun? I have a question for Hiram. Whoops.
Yes, sir.
What about UDO, Article 2, Section 2.18C and 2.19A? Prevents the removal of sand from Sunset Beach Island.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to ship this sand somewhere. How about the,
UDO.
Well, it's not on the island, it's in the water. I know what you're thinking. It's on the island way and everything, but it's not technically on the island. It was part of another island at one point and came through here. But,
okay.
I mean, that's, if you want the technicality of it, that's the technicality of it. The other easy solution is that y'all can avoid that for the public good. I mean, that's only for the public good. And again, this isn't removing, the intention behind that is not to remove dunes and, items like that. This is water, this is sand and water.
Okay.
But one of the things in Robert Neal's presentation here was that the DCM recognizes that state rules that require beach-compatible material to be maintained in the system. Therefore, we got to put it on our beach, put it on Ocean Isle Beach, put it on somebody else's beach,
Right,
put it
that's-
in a storage area where it can be used.
Right, and that's what he was alluding to. We
Yeah.
can't just put it in the dump. We do have to take it to a site though. And that site does not necessarily have to be in the system. It's just when you use it, it has to be back within the system.
Thank you.
Okay, we done with that?
Yeah.
Next up, Sunset at Sunset. Karen Joseph.
Let there be light.
Now that I've awakened you all. Good evening. It is my pleasure to give you a report about the 13th Annual Sunset at Sunset Festival. First, I would like to acknowledge the amazing members of the committee with whom I've worked. I've been on this festival committee off and on for 12 years, and I've always been amazed at the members of the various committees. This year, we were lucky enough to have 3 new members, and they fit in like a glove. Not all of them could be here tonight, but I would like those in attendance to please stand and be recognized. And Mary and Carol, please come in the room. I also would like to tell you, with sorrow, but with understanding, that Carol Grace is resigning from our committee after having served for many, many years. So thank you, Carol. I will now report to you the following. We had 142 vendors on site, more than we have ever had in the past. In addition, we received late requests as late as last Monday for booth space from 18 more vendors, although I don't know where on earth we would have put them. Our TV spot ran on various channels on the ATMC system for the past 2 weeks, totaling more than 200 runs. While we do not have and cannot ever have a specific count, we estimate that approximately 8,000 visitors were there on Saturday. I want to take note of the many wonderful sponsors and thank the village at Sunset Beach for once again allowing us to use their property for the festival. Our volunteers were amazing. They directed cars in and out of the big lot. Some of them directed traffic across Sunset Boulevard so that people could visit the Lion's Vision and Hearing trailer. Some of them worked with the children painting pumpkins and making turkeys. Some dealt directly with the vendors. Some worked in the welcome booth. Without these incredible volunteers, we could not have our festival. I want to thank Sindai Stevenson of our Public Works Department for working with the committee throughout the year. I want to thank Public Works for posting all of our banners, for making sure our water and electrical needs were met, and for making sure we were void of fire ants in the big parking lot. A special thank you goes to our police and fire departments. They were on site all day. They interacted with citizens. They worked with children on the obstacle course that was devised by the firefighters. They helped pull cars out of the sand, and they made all of us proud. We are so lucky to have them all. Yes, they deserve it. We had visitors from all over Brunswick County. They came to us from as far away as Wilmington and Leland and Myrtle Beach and south of that. Finally, I want to thank all of the Sunset Beach businesses and citizens who support Sunset at Sunset. This is their festival, and we are proud to make it better each and every year. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I don't have any questions, but as the council liaison to this committee, I didn't have to do anything. Really amazing group.
Thank you, Charlie.
Karen, and the group.
I think it was a showpiece for Sunset Beach. You guys are great.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
I would like to thank Karen for the number of hours that she puts in, and it doesn't start next
minutes for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 3rd, 2019 special meetings, September 17th, 2000 meeting, second regular meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public comments on agenda items only? Yes, sir.
My name's James Wilson. I live at 410 29th Street, Sunset Beach. I'm here to discuss briefly item number 3, the complaints from the farmer's market. I believe there are some misconceptions about the vendor rules that have been applied regarding vendor eligibility. I think that that's led to this inclusion on the agenda list, and some people may have been misinformed. I would like to clarify the referenced rule and provide you with our reasoning behind it. At the start of 2019, we found that there would be 2 weekly markets held 2 days apart in the park at Sunset Beach. After consulting with others in the outdoor market business, we determined the best opportunity for success that would apply to both markets so closely related would be to make sure that each park distinguishes itself by offering patrons distinctly different product and identity. The easiest way to do, and most effective way to do this would be to avoid duplication of vendors, thus giving each market the opportunity to present a unique face. Excuse me. It was, and it still is imperative for success to avoid that Me Too copycat image and reputation. This informal non-compete and anti-copycat rule approach is typical throughout North Carolina outdoor markets. So much so, there is only one location in southeast North Carolina that permits 2 markets at the same location in the same week. That's in Wilmington, North Carolina, a slightly larger market than Sunset Beach. Wilmington does not permit the same vendors to attend both markets. They leave it up to the vendors to choose which one they wish to attend. This is what we proposed to our vendors at the Thursday market in the park. It's their choice. We did not say you couldn't go. We said you need to choose. They need to choose what's best for them. Our market has evolved into a community of mutual respect among all our vendors, all driven to be one of the best, most well-attended weekly markets in North Carolina. Most well-attended, and to be the most well-attended weekly market in the area. Each vendor puts forth their best foot each week towards that goal. The high quality standards, unique products, and friendly demeanor of our vendors have been instrumental in adding to the draw of visitors to Sunset Beach, whether it's just for the day or for an extended vacation. In return, all that they request is that they can count on Pure Markets, the managing entity, and Sunset Beach for the opportunity year after year to earn a living and achieve the quality life they desire without worry about interference from people that have less knowledge about how these things work. It seems a small price to me to pay for some entity that provides such a strong town image. All of us associated with Pure Markets are taxpayers. We're customers of local restaurants and merchants. Thus, we're contributors to the local economy. Pure Markets also is required to pay the town a usage fee for the park each week. We even have to bring toilet paper to the town park. It should also be noted that we have a benevolent side in our organization. To date, through the kindness of our vendors and the patrons alike, Pure Markets has raised and donated over $5,000 to the less fortunate school children in southeast Brunswick County. This is something we're not required to do. We do it because we want to be a positive impact on our community. We have also stepped up when needed to provide goods, services, and cash to victims of Florence and of Dorian. We want to be good citizens. Finally, my request is that all the information I've provided to you this evening be considered prior to making any decisions that will impact the livelihood of those participants in the Pure Markets here in Sunset Beach. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll assure you, I'm all for the farmers because, and that's not what I'm going to
Pick
speak
the
on.
microphone up a little bit, please.
Oh, thank you. That's not what I'm going to speak on, but I am for the farmers.
Name and address, please.
Yes, I'm Dan Stanlin, 1840 Beach Drive, Southwest Calabash, better known as Bonaparte Landing, right down the waterway from here. Farmers markets are big business, and that's not what I'm going to speak about, but I will say this in benefit of this man. I hope that they have a congenial relationship with this town as to service that they would provide and as to the products that are fresh, brought out of their fields. That's a lot of hard labor, and a lot of times we had to do it. We'd appreciate probably what some of was given to us this evening. What I do want to speak about is something to congratulate you folks on that I heard here tonight, and that is about your dredging project. Some of you may know that the late Edward Gore was my first cousin, and before Ed passed, I carried Ed over to Sunset Beach. And as we went across the causeway, immediately we turned left. And then we protruded down past that inn there, professional inn. And then a few houses along there. And Ed had done a project a long time ago, and they did a very nice project of bulkheading. I think you know where I'm talking about. At the end of the big slips over there, which a lot of people might not know, has got really good deep water at this minute. I'm surprised how well when Ed and his dad, cut those slips and how well they've maintained themselves. Well, I told Ed at that time, I knew his son was working on, and I think we won't be lengthy here, but I think they had put applications in to the southwestern point of land where the cottages over on Sunset Beach end up, and then Mad Inlet area. I think understand that and what's been before your board. During that time of application, my family spent megabucks, and they don't know I'm saying this tonight, for application. Anyway, that became resolved just recently as the state purchased those properties, and it was probably for the best. Let's say now the island is preserved over there. But where you had tonight talking about the dredging is really what I had talked to Ed about. I have worked for the federal government, the Corps of Engineers, and I've laid smudge lines at the tune of 7.5 miles. I've redesigned spillways. I've done beach renourishment and sensitive building landing strips at the Naval Weapons Station, and I would oversee 7.5 mile dikes. And I got written up by the Corps of Engineers. They didn't know I was going to do it, but they did, as high accommodations for protection of the environment. Then they had me to redesign some spillways like we have on these little islands over here. You know, this Mr. Serrato has been out and he knows there's a box frame over there for the discharge. Some of you might have seen these, okay. I heard tonight something to the effect about possibly trucking some sand to the expense of this town to another town. Now, if it's by truck, I wish you guys would nod and say yes if that's not the case. If it's by pipeline and carried over out of this estuaries here that you're trying to do a tremendous job and refurbish and renourish, and then carried up on the beach strand, I can assure you that's the easy way to do that. And there will be no traveling with any sand or any requirements of any property owners, contrary to what I heard here this evening, because those pipelines are laid in the water, and nobody has jurisdiction on that water as to ownership. So I hope that'll help you a little bit. And if there was a situation to where this might help you, that I understood you said something to the effect that you were having a problem with about the sand and where you were going to put it and the cost and so forth. Well, I got a remedy. Back when Keith Hardy was the mayor of not Sunset, but Calabash. He's deceased now. He's the late Keith Hardy. I gave a proposal to the federal government and to both states. And at that time, you guys probably know, and ladies too, that there was a dredging project on the Calabash River. Some of you probably saw this. Well, I got the disposal location. I had to go through the Tillmans. Some of them were in California. Some of them were local in North Myrtle Beach area. And then there's also with the Stanlins involved, because our property protrude out of Devon Park, and various places up and down here is involved with the Stanlins. And by the way, those islands there, side of the Coastal Waterway, I was speaking to Ed about, he knows, and I've addressed this in other town council, that those islands are under my direction of overseeing those islands, because the Intercoastal Waterway is built on Stanlin property. And we lease those properties from the Schlote Inlet all the way to past the Little River jetties to the federal government. So they're under a lease. And of course, my predecessor in title has been the federal government. And I've worked and done beach renourishments all the way from Charleston, Georgetown. Laid 7.5 miles of submerged lines right on up, in closing with you, to Norfolk. And I've done projects in Wilmington, Carolina Shores, all over, Myrtle Beach, you name it. So, if you're talking about putting a dozer over there in a pipeline and being so neighborly and carrying that material out of here and carrying it over on Ocean Isle Beach, you still have to have dozers over there to spread that material. You just don't put a pipeline up there and then you have to do like I used to do in Norfolk, working in that bad weather all night, and you have to remove it looks like a big dragline bucket, and it's a velocity dissipator is what it is. It's put on a pipeline, and when it gets filled up, you've got to move that, put some more pipeline on, put that velocity dissipator back in place for that material. And still you have to use D8 Caterpillars out there on there and good grading equipment. I got a suggestion for you, just like I did for the town, in closing right here, just like I did for the town of Calabash. We got a 15-year lease, and it could be extended for any future dredging for the town of Calabash. And if it comes again, I guarantee I can get it just exactly like I did before for the town of Calabash. I can do this for you. This material that you want to move truly has different sedimentation. Some of it is mud and shale. And none of you people want what this lady was talking about, to have material on that beach that is not conducive if you're out there barefoot. You want it as natural as you can get. Well, let me tell you, it's no problem. Because what you do is you carry, in closing, I know we're getting close, you carry light kind of material, which is beach material, that's over there to start with, and you only put the sand over there on the beach. Then the next thing happens is the sun brings water out of the beach, and next thing is the animals over there, and next thing you've got permeation. That sand starts filling. So, 2 locations, let's get to the point so we can let the next person speak. We have 2 very nice islands here that could use the inferior material that's going to come out of these creeks, the mud and the shale. And then after you have pumped that area, if you're talking about doing certain amounts over there in the mouth of tubs where there is the sand, you'll know the quality because it'll come out the end of the pipeline. So all you have to do, sir, is and I know how to do this, and I know how to engineer it, and to bring them pipelines over there after the fact, if it's not conducive for you to carry it to Ocean Isle Beach and put it on the strand. And there could be liabilities there. If them people don't like that sand over there, you're liable to see some liabilities. I'm not against Ocean Isle, and if it can be put to use or on Sunset Beach, I know how to do it with a pipeline. And so the pipeline is the simplest way to carry material from borrowing pit from point A to point B, and I've done it for 7.5 miles or more. So I hope that'll help you, and I'm sorry that I went past my 3 minutes, but I believe it's well worth for your town's next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Ledford. I live at 636 Kingfisher Lane, Sunset Beach. In response to some of the things the gentleman just said and some other comments earlier, we own a house on the beachfront and the 500 block of Sunset Beach. There are 4 owners, and I'm sure our letters are very similar, so when you receive letters that are the same, it's not because we're copying, it's because we agree on, what we're saying. We don't all live here, but we all have an interest. We're riparian owners too, and I think we're going to be impacted in a negative way when the canal owners are impacted in a positive way that they want. The reason it's so complicated is because it's a complicated system, and I think the reason that the state is taking so much time and being so diligent is not because they're afraid of lawsuits, it's because they want to protect our environment. And as the gentleman just said, most of these beaches all around here have been pumped with some other sand from somewhere at some time, except for our beach at Sunset Beach, which is the driver of our economy. This isn't a scare tactic. We're really concerned. We don't want the sand out there in front of our houses. In our opinion, it's not a beneficial reuse of the sand, and I think that there are other places that the sand could go, as he was just saying. I'm wondering about ongoing maintenance of the canals. Is every time they are dredged, are we going to have sand pumped out on our beach? I mean, it just seems like a really very bad plan.
So ma'am, that dredging sand is not being put on the beach.
I know it's claims to match. I'm sure that all the sand they put on Ocean Isle, they said that probably matched too, but we know it doesn't, and it can't. And the gentleman from the engineering company agreed that there's no way possible to actually match it. Our beach recovers really quickly. After Matthew, the sand blew back up where it washed out a little bit in front of 5th Street, blew back up within days, because I was actually out there watching it. And it doesn't matter how much sand we pump out on that beach. If a big storm comes and wants to wash over Sunset Beach, it's going to wash out. I mean, we can't stop the ocean. So I'm worried about who's paying to put the sand in front of our house. You know, I mean, I understand the canal people are paying for the dredging. Who's paying to put it out on the beach? I mean, do we have to pay for that? The equipment's gonna have to come all the way down from not just Fifth to 12th, from Tubbs Inlet, all the way around Tubbs Inlet and all the way down to Fifth. So do all those people have to pay? I mean, who's paying for this? I'm not clear about that. And yeah, I just hope that the town can consider what the DCM had said about considering a different location for the sand, whether it matches or not. If we're gonna pay a lot, let's get something that is actually beneficial to all the people involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
You need to do the 3 minutes.
Good evening. Kimberly Cummins. I live in Calabash, 1283 Clara Day Road, Southwest, Calabash. I am a vendor at the Pure Markets Farmers Market, and I have to tell you, it has changed my life. It's been an incredible experience. Everyone there has been such a positive and just wonderful people to be around. In addition to that, I have met so many people that have come to just walk through the park with their dogs, with their family, with their children, and they make special trips just to come see us, you know, for our products, for our kind nature. They really enjoy having us there. So when you are discussing the situation with that tonight, please keep us in mind, because we really work hard and we want this to be a success, much like it has been for years, and hopefully for what will continue to be really wonderful experience for the people that come visit us. Thank you, folks. I hope you have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
You're out.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump ahead of you. My name is Rachel Willoughby, and I'm also one of the people who attends the Pure Markets on
Address,
on
please.
Thursdays. I'm actually from Castle Hayne, North Carolina,
We need your address, ma'am.
6216 Carolyn Hill Road, Castle Hayne, North Carolina. So I drove here an hour here just specifically to show my support for this market. I do, in my height of my season, 11 markets a week. All of those markets have a basic set of rules and regulations, and he's correct. Every single one of them, with the exception of one market in Wilmington that happens on two days a week in the same place, it doesn't happen. And the integrity of this market, it's important for the integrity of this market to keep variety. And I understand if you want to keep 2 markets, sure, keep your 2 markets. But definitely, please, for the integrity of both of those markets, please keep them separate vendors. No one wants to come to a market and have the same people at every single market that they go to. It will definitely be have a detrimental effect upon all of the vendors at all of the markets. So I have an hour drive home, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch out for the deer.
Hi there. My name is Martha Murphy. I live at 4670 Maple Hill Road, Charlotte. I'm going to address 2 things this evening, one of which is going to cover both entities, both the dredging and the markets. I don't think anyone in this room, and I see a lot of faces I really like, and a lot of people who work really, really hard. I'm one of them. If we are not going to start being aware of our environmental issues, number one, I absolutely agree, and you're going to be shocked when I say this, we shouldn't have 2 markets at Sunset Beach. There is no point in that at all. For me, I look at that as environmental. Our footprint here in the United States and what we're doing, whether it's the dredging. I work very hard for Ocean Isle Beach Sea Turtle Rescue. I've done that for 4 years. I donate a lot of my time and effort for them, and also Possibilities. I am also a damn good artist. I was removed from a market unfairly. I don't care at this point. What I care about is our footprint needs to be smaller. The market needs to be one market. And you guys better really think about what's going to happen with the dredging. Not only are people going to be concerned for the environment, but their homes. And she's absolutely right. That ocean, we don't control it, and we don't own it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think it's your
Thank you,
turn.
Council. Barbara Spraga, 611 Triangle Court Southwest, Sunset Beach. I agree with Martha. I think there should be one market. And the people who have done it so successfully for years should be the one to have it. So I'm going to just speak my piece. I am honored to be among a group of artisans that presents for the pure markets. Each one of us was juried into this group by the market's curators. Every art festival and market worth its weight has a jury system to ensure a high standard of excellence. The reason our clientele flocks to our markets, the pure markets, year after year, is because this market retains its standard of excellence year after year. I don't know what happened there, but what I can tell you is my experience. Not only by the artists and growers that make the cut, but also by the way it's run. Chris and Jim Wilson run the pure markets like a finely tuned instrument. Artists and growers get weekly emails reminding us about town rules pertaining to the park, including designated artist parking areas and the times to load in and load out. We are a team and assist one another to ensure we're all loaded out 90 minutes after the markets end. We are a community, and that just didn't happen overnight. The pure market's success is not by chance. It's by the careful daily nurturing of this venture. Chris and Jim are people of high integrity and unfailing honesty who have respect for the town's rules while navigating the fine balance of attending to vendors and visitors alike. They demand high standards from us. Everything we sell must be 100% handmade or locally grown. My voice is wavering because I don't like public speaking, so that's the only reason. Which makes for an extremely popular market. Visitors and locals come to pure markets because of those high standards. What sets the great markets and festivals apart from the mediocre is that standard of excellence and evolving creativity that keeps folks excited to come back. So what does this do for the town? We get to talk to each of our customers. We share what we love about Sunset Beach. We recommend merchants and eateries that they might like, depending upon what they're looking for. We have become pretty much ambassadors for the town, and I must say we are pretty damned good at it. In addition, Chris and Jim started the Be Kind project, which Jim already talked about, so I'm not going to go into that. But not only do we, all of us, give to local area charities, in particular Brunswick County School System, but we have really come together to help the artists that have been impacted by the last 2 hurricanes. We have really made an impact and a difference in their lives because we are a community. They also organize incentives to help our artists this year. I said that already, I'm not going to say it again. As an artist in the Pure Market Group, I can tell you that this opportunity has given me a regular outlet to create and evolve and get paid for doing it. To be able to do that with a group of people I truly love is such a blessing. Now here's the part I really didn't want to go into, but then I read a letter that was sent to the town. I read a letter that was sent to the town by the disgruntled organizer of the Monday market, and I'm not holding back anymore. It was evident it was sour grapes. If she and her husband truly had grateful hearts, they would not be spending their time and wasting others by trying to throw a wrench into something that's already working, because that's what they have, because what they have might not be working. I don't know. I have seen this game before. I have been, and I'm going to say it, I have been bullied by the husband of this team, and I've been target of their shenanigans, to put it nicely. And I think by the hands you can see that I'm not the only one in this town who has. And since this Pandora's box has been opened, I will share the details privately if asked, but not in this public forum. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All of you, I do appreciate you here, and I do share a lot of the concerns that you all have. My name is Dean Nelson. My address is 187 Azalea Circle Southwest, Sunset Beach. I would like to start out first by thanking the town of Sunset Beach for approving the 2019 Grateful Hearts Market. This nonprofit market ran for 13 of the 14 slated weeks. We accomplished the following. We were able to generate $2,990 in revenue to the town. Just like Pure Markets, we also pay fees. There is nothing gratis. We do supply our own toilet paper and soap as well. We were also able to make a $700 donation to Brunswick Family Assistance. This was achieved by using a portion of the vendors' fees collected, as well as money generated from a raffle, using prizes donated by vendors themselves. The original concept for this nonprofit market was to create a revenue stream to give back to the community, as well as fund the printing of a map/booklet highlighting businesses in the area. It was also a viable employment opportunity for vendors, artists, and businesses that don't necessarily have a brick and mortar store. These people use the summer months as their employment season and rely on visitor traffic to survive. The other group served were those who could not participate in the Thursday market for a variety of reasons. Perhaps the category has been full. Jewelry, for example, fills up the fastest and they can't get in. Our original goal of 35 to 50 vendors would have resulted in a more sustainable market. If a market is too small, vendors don't get the traffic necessary to make it. So at this time, a big public shout out to those who loyally remain throughout the season. We humbly thank them. Putting personal differences aside, and I won't go into bullying because it started to me by people at the Thursday market. And I don't want to take anything away from the Thursday market. It is a very successful market. It is well run. The quality of artisans there is bar none in the area. So, and I've never not said that. I've never not supported you all. I took the position, the high road, when approached by various vendors to come to our market, and I said, are you participating in the Thursday market? There is a rule that does not allow you to do both, so let me save you time. I did not try to get them to come to our market and not do hers. I directed them, if they had already applied and been accepted, to not come to our market. So putting these personal differences aside, and there are many, the fact remains that the Monday market was severely hampered by the rule put in place on the Pure Markets application. This rule did not allow vendors to participate in the summer market if they participated in any other weekly markets at the same location. As for a profit entity, Pure Markets also hosts a weekly market in OIB, as well as very successful spring and holiday markets in both locations. Many Thursday vendors submitted applications to the Monday market not knowing the rule was in effect. Some were disappointed they could not do both, as it served a different group of visitors and limited these vendors' potential income. We do have a different group of people on a weekend that come from, say, a Thursday or Friday and leave on a Monday or a Tuesday that never were served by a market. Many expressed concerns that the rule itself was discriminatory in nature and a private entity was creating rules for an event held on public trust land. When this concern was brought to the attention of the Pure Market Director, she ensured the town it would be removed. To date, this evening, prior to this meeting, it is still on the website and application. All that was ever requested by Grateful Hearts Market was a fair and level playing field. We never expected our vendors to automatically be included in the Thursday market. They would have to apply and be juried in on their own merit. We knew commercial businesses were excluded as it is a pure market. We were more than happy to host businesses such as Tastefully Simple, Rodan and Fields, and others of a similar type. These businesses, as well as music, made this not a weekly copycat market. For the record, I would like to clearly and emphatically state that neither Grateful Hearts Market nor myself have any desire or intent to replace, manage, or have anything to do with the Thursday market. Personally, I will be out of the country next summer for business. Therefore, I will not be participating, thank you. I will not be participating in any weekly market in any location as a vendor or a coordinator. For 2020, there are people who are excluded from the Thursday market who deserve an opportunity to have an income, but they will not pursue managing a Monday market if it is not financially feasible and ethically fair. I agree, one market would suffice for the town if it was not exclusionary, if there were not rules that were broken and favorites were played. So again, I can get hot about this as well and serious, but I thank you for your time, and I wish everyone the best, all the vendors the best. You all deserve to be recognized also for your hard work. Thank you to the town.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
can I remind you there's a 3-minute limit?
Yeah, we
on
got 3
speakers?
minutes on this.
And some of these are getting really repetitive.
And I soon need a break.
Pardon me?
5-minute recess.
He's taking a recess.
Okay. Why? I'll stay right here. I'm not going to give up my place.
You're not giving it up?
Sure know how to clear a room, right?
Would you pose?
Go ahead.
My name is Suzanne Benfield. I live at 134 Northeast 4th Street in Oak Island, and I am a vendor at the Thursday Pure Markets event. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here, although I'm sorry that this topic is on the agenda. It seems like you guys have a lot bigger fish to fry. However, that being said, there is a plethora of markets available in Brunswick, New Hanover, Horry County, in which one could choose to participate. Each one of those has its own very specific set of rules and regulations. As I contemplate which markets I would like to participate in, I read those rules very carefully. And I would like to state that most of the markets that you encounter in those rules require that things be handmade, have a limit on number of vendors per item, per type of item that's going to be sold, among other rules. I choose to participate in the Pure Markets events at Sunset Beach, not in spite of, but because of the set of rules that they have in place. I think they are fair for everyone. And I make the majority of my money each year from weekly, seasonal, and special events markets. So all of the markets are very important to me. I personally take a little bit different approach. I read the agenda item in the packet, and it seems that there's a contradiction even in Mr. Serrato's statement right on the face. It says that each market is allowed to create their own set of rules, regulations, procedures, et cetera, as long as they're abiding by the law. With respect to his personal feeling of discrimination, I would put forth that discrimination is on the basis of age, sex, race, or religion, none of which is implied anywhere in the rules of Pure Market, and therefore does not even rise to the level of something that should be entertained by a governmental entity. This is not something that belongs on the council agenda at all. There's nothing discriminatory in the policies of Pure Markets. And personally, I see that rule as nothing more than a very lenient non-compete clause, which is something that I signed in every position that I accepted my entire professional career before I left that to do something that I enjoy. So, in my opinion, this topic has no place at this council meeting at all. It's not something that belongs to be decided by a governmental entity. No laws have been broken. No discrimination has existed. And in my mind, it's pretty black and white just at that on the face. Thank you for your time.
Does anyone have anything new to add on it?
I'd like to make a comment. I'll be very brief. My name is Bill Oliver. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, 4629 Bluff Drive. I too am a vendor at the Thursday market. And as far as the rules and regulations, they're no different than any other place. I've done 5 markets here in the local area, and every one of them has a set of rules that keep the quality of the markets up. I know some markets have ventured to try to bring in people that go out and buy goods on the internet, or they buy goods locally or from China or whatever, and they bring them to markets and they cheapen the market. And that's why those rules and regulations are in place. The 5 markets that I've done, I want to tell you, Jim and Chris run a quality market. It's first class. I do the Ocean Island, I do this market down here for one reason. It's because they're high quality markets. They're handmade goods. I'm an artisan. I don't want my products mingled with people that are buying stuff on the internet, those type of things. And their rules and regulations are fair and just, and they're in place for a purpose. That purpose is to protect myself and the other vendors in the market. I thank you for your time.
My name is Lynn Neesmith, and I live at 210 Shoreline Drive East, Sunset Beach. And I came to hear about dredging, and then now I'm going to talk like the other lady. I hope it's okay. Dredging, I hope you guys, it's been a long process, and you're taking your time, and you're being deliberate. And the last thing you need to do is jump and put incompatible, even though it's called possibly compatible, sand on the beach. I live in Florida when I don't live here. I grew up here. I started coming to this beach in 1959. I don't know who beats me, how many people here have been coming here before 1959, but our sand is incredible. And I've never been on a beach that's been renourished that has the quality of sand that matches a beach that has not been renourished. So there's that. And number two, I love the Pier Market. I've met Chris and Jim and all the merchants, and it's an amazing situation. I came in the spring to have kindred spirit, images and photographs and paintings, and it's been a really unique experience, and it's made my time here very special. So for someone that's been coming to Sunset Beach since 1959, please keep the quality of the market to a higher standards and the quality of the sand on our beach, because they cannot be replaced, and they're really important.
Carmel Zetz, 402 2nd Street, Sunset Beach. I'm here about the dredging. The material that's placed on the beach between, if it's placed on the beach between November 30th and April 30th, it shouldn't have any trouble with the turtles. But if you go outside of that time frame, it can cause a problem for sea turtle nesting. The material placed on the beach is similar to the sand that's already there. That is the similar consistency, the color, and the grain. It should be okay. But if you go outside of that, and if you put dark sand on the beach, like some beaches have had, it will cause different things with the nest. The eggs will not mature the way they should, and we could have deformities in the nest, or we could just lose the nest completely. But if we do everything the way you say, it sounds great, but we have seen problems with other beaches, with especially the rocks and that. But I've been told that it's going to be the same. So if it is the same, there should be no problems as long as we do it from November through April. Thank you.
Thank you. It's Paul real quick. So let's, everybody make it clear. The town hall has sand for you to look at. So just come out and look at it. You'll see how compatible we're talking about.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me address. Joe Melton, 668 Meadowbrook Lane, Calabash. I'll make it brief. Pure Markets has been a blessing for us since retirement. It's given us an extra way to make a little more money to help pay for all our health costs. Second thing is, please, I implore you, please don't let it turn into a flea market. And that's what can happen if you change it. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason McMillan, live at 6154 Raccoon Court, Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. I've been a part of the market and other things here in Sunset Beach since we have started our business, Dixieland Kettle Corn, for 8 years now. And a lot of people have made some very good points tonight. I want to make clear that you've got to have barriers of entry to a market. If you don't, Chris and Jim could go down there and put up a tent literally along every square inch of that. This market has that kind of a reputation. I have been picked out in Boone, in Raleigh, in Charlotte, and even in the middle of a NASCAR race in Bristol. and said, "You're the popcorn guy from Sunset Beach Market." The market is that well known. I've had the opportunity that there are vendors that say that they're upset at not being able to participate in both markets. I've had the unique opportunity to be a vendor both at the concert and also down at the market. And even as popular and as consumable, and if you like my product, you need to replace it on a regular basis. Sunset Beach is not big enough to support it. I think most of these vendors would discover that if they had the opportunity. It's not going to be worth their time. I'm part of the Walkmall Market Cooperative that also operates in Horry County, South Carolina. There are 2 markets down there, one at Market Common, one also at Surfside Beach, that will allow you to participate in both of those markets. They hold dual markets. Market Common holds 2 markets a week, so does Surfside Beach. Of all of my friends that are vendors down there, none of them repeat business at those 2 markets twice in 1 week, because it's simply, they can't support it. They cannot, they're exposed to the same people over and over. So the same person's not going to come back and repeatedly buy product from them. So I've had a disagreement with Chris about a product. I brought a product in a couple years ago. I said, "Hey, this is what I'd like to start selling." She looked at me, she said, "Jason, do you actually grow these grapes?" I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Does your family do it?" I said, "No." She said, do you bottle this product?" I said, "No, I don't." "You can't sell it." I have seen, if I wanted to make a stand and stomp my feet and pout about it and insist on carrying it, I was not going to be allowed to come back to the market. I've gone to Mr. Serrato's restaurant one time, just dropping in. I walked up to the hostess. We wanted to get something to eat. She said, "Do you have a reservation?" I said, "No, I don't." She said, "You need a reservation." I don't know if that's true or not. It's just what happened that day. But that's how that restaurant decides to do business. That's how they decide to do business. And so I have seen vendors removed because they were approached in a fair manner and tried to be reasoned with and explained, "Hey, if you want to stay, you have to remove this product or you have to remove this product." And they made a choice not to. Those are the only people I've ever seen or ever heard of that have been asked not to come back to the market. So I think Sunset Beach is really is a special place to be able to hold 2 markets. I wish the other market the very best, and I hope that they're successful. But so far as the Thursday market with its rules and guidelines, I would encourage you folks to please leave them alone, because it's working. And it's not just here. You have a market that is known around the entire state. So thank you very much. Y'all have a great night.
Next time, make a reservation.
Is there anyone else who has anything? Okay. What are we going to do with the town administrator report?
Briefly, I sent the rest of the department heads home, like we discussed. I will, just for sake of time, I'm going to go over one item. I did speak with Alan with GFL. He can be at our November 19th meeting. That's the guy from the waste industries.
Great.
Can be here at the November 19th meeting. However, he is working on getting with his people to figure out if they can actually revert back to a Wednesday pickup. No promises,
Good.
but they are looking into it.
Okay.
The tonnage reports came in about the same.
Oh, they did.
So it's not more trash, it's not less trash.
It's just
It's
in
about the
different
same
days.
trash. There is more trash because there's more houses, but taking that aggregate into effect, there's a steady pickup.
Okay.
But he is looking into it. That's all I got.
Okay, so
For brevity.
we'll go to old business. Ordinance to amend Article 10, Section 10.02B4.
I'd like to make a motion to accept Article 10, Section 10.02B.4.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion,
Discussion.
please.
You wanna
Hate to
discuss
do
some
this. I have one question with it, and does the portion on tree canopies apply to new developments only? Or does everybody's out there have to go back and meet those standards?
Only at such time as they'd make a substantial improvement to the property. This isn't a retroactive
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay, that's good, thank you. The second one was, in page 36, table 10.2, landscape matrix, solar panels have been added in as a landscape item. I really don't think that solar panels fit as a concept of a landscape item. I think that should be removed and be one of the topics that we give to the Environmental Resource Committee to consider the study, to come up with ways to educate the community, promote solar panels, come up with the incentives, apply for grants and that type of thing. But I don't see that fitting in the landscape matrix. So I'd like to see that removed.
As Mr. Rademacher told y'all last meeting, and as I've told y'all plenty of times before, y'all are welcome to remove or add anything to this ordinance as y'all see fit.
Does it have to be a motion?
What you would do is you'd make you'd have to amend the current motion because I think the motion is as is. So you'd have to amend the motion for editing and just call out what you're removing or adding.
I would
Mr.
make a
Mayor.
motion to.
Well, whoever's got the motion on the floor would have to either withdraw or make that amendment.
The solar panel idea was beat to death by the planning board. So I don't think it belongs in there either.
I wasn't at the meeting. I'm just
It was
Todd's.
more than one meeting.
Todd's at a class this week, so I'm filling in the best I can.
So is this, I need to make a motion for you, John?
You have to make a motion to include an amendment that removes solar panels.
I like to make,
If that's what y'all decide
I
to
like
do.
to make a motion to include, removing solar panels from the landscaping.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion again?
Removing this from this article ordinance, we're not saying to the town, we don't want you to have solar panels.
No, not at all.
Then
Okay,
what do we say?
Because we
Well,
do want to have solar
What
panels.
we are saying, and was put into the climate change memorandum and program, is that the Environmental Resource Committee should look at solar panels, come up with ways to educate the community, to promote the use of those solar panels, find out where you can get grants to help come up with incentives so there could be maybe some financial support to do it.
There are some
that's-
communities in Sunset Beach that do not allow solar panels.
Well, that's
So
also,
is that part of the ERC's challenge as well?
I guess
Well,
dedicated,
It'd be an education component. I think the point here is the same one that Councilman Corbett made at the last meeting, that he doesn't see this as a landscaping, because this is just a landscaping ordinance. I don't think it's saying anything about solar
Yeah.
panels. I think it's
No.
talking about, does this really belong with landscaping credit?
Let the RC do this.
To answer your question, I don't think this is a negative message to the community.
Okay.
I think it's just everything in its proper place.
It just doesn't have
Yeah,
anything
this,
to do
this does not have anything to do with restrict solar.
no.
No.
No, it's just not a landscaping.
I think this was an attempt to incentivize.
So this is in the wrong box, then it
Pretty
should be in a
much.
different box.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's the point we're trying to get across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to try that again?
Make a second.
Oh,
All we need is a
yeah,
second.
you can call- No, you got
What?
a second.
He amended
Got a
his
second.
motion,
All
so-
you gotta do is a vote.
If we have a second, we just need a vote.
We just need to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is consideration of adoption of resolution closing 60 feet access street.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to file a motion. I lost my motion, but I would like to file a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution closing the 60-foot access street.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 3 coming up is farmer's market, vendor complaints, Mr. Serrato. I just want to say one thing before we go down this. These two markets don't have anything to do with the town of Sunset Beach. We just rent the park out to both markets. We allow for 2 high-impact events a week. They just happen to be both markets that came to rent the town. We're not saying one market can be here and the other market can't. That's what I've been hearing tonight is we need to keep this market, but we don't need to keep this one. And if we're going to keep one market, then this is the market that needs to be kept. You folks, the people who run both these markets, pay a fee to the town for that week. We should not be telling these markets who they can and cannot have at their events. They pay the fee to the town just as long as they are within our guidelines and our rules. We should not be stepping in the middle of these markets. The town does not need to be in the farmer's market. We're just doing a service. We're providing a service. We're renting our park to 2 high-impact events. Now, they just happen to both be markets. But I can assure you that the town is impartial to this. I don't care which market goes there. I don't care if both of them go there. Supply and demand will take over. If both markets have enough people to be there, then both markets will continue on. If not, then one will close and the other one will close, or one will stay. But it doesn't have anything to do with us. And that is what I thought tonight. I was getting the impression that we were going to have to make a decision on whether we were going to close a market or add a market or do something with these markets, and we're not. All we are doing is renting out our park to 2 high-impact events a week, and they just both happen to be markets. Okay, so farmer's market, Rich, this is on you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I attempted to address this matter offline, and I was told, and Hiram, you can correct me, in fact, I was asked to remove it from the agenda, which I was willing to do, because Hiram informed me that the owner changed the policy. Now, what's the policy? Simply, I'm going to try to put this in a simple way. I'm a vendor. I've received several calls from vendors. Some that participated participated in the Thursday market, some participated in the Monday market. The town passed the park rule, I think a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, to allow 2 high event areas or high impact to use the park. We wanted to control its use because that's the people's park. That's their park. They spent $4 million for it. And this is what I heard. If I sell apples on Monday at the market on Monday, I can't sell my apples on Thursday. And if I'm a vendor on Thursday and I sell apples, whatever their rules are, I can't sell my apples on Monday. I'm restricted. Now, Mr. Hiram told me that they corrected the policy and I was going to take it off the agenda. but they haven't corrected the policy. This is not about who owns the park. The park is public trust land. This is me as a vendor on Thursday, and the owners are telling me that I can't sell my apples on Monday. Now, I did a lot of labor law stuff. This, I don't know if it's discrimination or not, but it's intimidation. And I don't think that's right. And I'm not going to fix this problem. That's up to council to do if they want to interfere with it. I'm not going to. But I think it's wrong, and I think it's unfair, and I think it's restrictive.
Mr. Mayor.
And so for anyone to dictate, let me finish. So for anyone to dictate the use of a park by a third party, I think is wrong. Taxpayers own the park. If I'm eligible to sell apples on Monday, I should be eligible to sell apples on Thursday, and I should not be restricted. That's the bottom line.
Mr. Mayor.
Since I was called out, do you mind if I go first?
Oh, go ahead.
Thank you. Just for some brief information for everyone involved, since no one's gotten all the emails that the council's gotten. The town's staff stance has been consistently that we do not interfere with the rules and regulations of the people operating under the permit for the park. That being said, I did not approach the market to change their rules. They did come and tell me they had changed it because they had been approached by someone else. I've maintained from the beginning that they are not stopping people from using the park. They are stopping who participates in their event, which is no different than anybody else who holds an event there. We don't tell Possibility which bands to have. We don't tell Old Bridge Society what to do with their festival. We maintain what's in the park rules is the number of events allowed and the size and category that they're allowed within. So they did approach me and did tell me they had changed rules based on communications with a council member. And as I said, I don't really have any reason to alter their rules or verify those rules have changed. We've made the permit. We permitted it months ago. I don't really see the categorical need to change that permit.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Charlie.
This started out with the Sunset Beach Business and Merchants Association, which evolved into the Sunset Beach Merchants Association, then the Sunset Beach Merchants Guild, and now it's the Bridge to Bridge Merchants Group. The reason I wanted this off of the agenda was because it doesn't make any difference. I don't want to share these with the council members. You'll pass those down. I went out and I looked for facts, and I talked to one of the officers of the Bridge to Bridge Merchants Group today, and she informed me that Mrs. Nelson was not seeking reappointment as the president of that group. In addition, she made it quite clear that the Bridge to Bridge Merchants Group will not be running a market on any day of the week. They have, the last thing they put out was this, what I picked up today. And the problem is that a lot of the merchants don't have time or the inclination to be very involved in this. And so all this tonight, there wasn't going to be a market. There wasn't going to be a Monday market. And I went to both markets frequently. And there's some council people here, I never saw at any market. So That's all I
Never
have.
fails.
Can I ask the mayor, what are we here for to do? Make a motion to shut a market down, or just let Rich speak and then go to the next subject? Because I am not in favor of changing anything.
We're not here to change anything. The town doesn't do anything. All we do is rent the land.
So
We
now-
rent it out.
so
There
now
is
we-
there's no end game here, right,
go-
Rich?
Let's go to the next agenda.
Mr. Mayor, there's not a thing I can do. I can only voice complaints that are given to me, and I haven't heard an answer.
I haven't heard those complaints.
I haven't heard an answer.
But no public
Mayor?
comments.
No.
The complaints that I received are as follows, and I'm trying to simplify it. It's not about a power struggle. If I am a vendor on Thursday and I sell apples,
We got it, Rich, we got it.
We got that.
she doesn't, she asked for a clarification.
No, she asked, no.
Well,
No.
Mr. Mayor, may I say
You're not
something?
going to accept what I say. It's about fairness and not control. It's about I'm a vendor. It's about me participating, and I'm being restricted that I cannot.
it's a moot point.
That's what the issue is.
Farmers markets make
Okay.
their own rules.
And no
We
one
don't
wants
make
to
the-
address it. No one wants to talk about it.
We just did.
Okay, John, do you have anything?
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I have no solution. It's
Okay.
it's unfair, and I'm well aware of the politics in this town and the friendships in this town, and I think it's wrong. We should do what's best for the vendors and not for friendships.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'm going to skip through my preamble about how I like both markets, and they're good for the town, and they're both are generous in contributions, and they both promote Sunset Beach in a positive way. This discussion does not promote Sunset Beach in a positive way, but they do meet all the requirements and rules that the town sets out here. You know, the market operators have the right to set their own requirements for vendors and to pay, who will pay to participate in their markets. You know, the vendors as private businesses have a right to determine which market they want to participate in. And as long as the markets are in compliance, it is not the town council's business as to what the rules of operation are. And yes,
What you're ignoring is you're restricting people.
no.
Yes, yes,
They're
yes.
letting free market business operate as a free market
But
business.
I can't.
Yeah.
If I'm selling my goods on Monday, I can't sell them on Thursday.
You know the rules, you pick out which market you want to go to.
John.
Mr. Mayor,
friendships
maybe we ought to
first.
move on.
Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, we're done.
I know how friendships work in this. Mad Inlet was another example.
Mad Inlet?
Okay, new business. Budget amendment number 2, fiscal year 1920. Tara.
I thought you went home.
I think.
There.
She's the one that had a relevant agenda item.
There is one thing I want to report on that, just because I've gotten a lot of calls this week and people stopping by, an accommodations tax. So there are short-term rentals, any rentals less than 90 days. If you are with VRBO, VRBO is now collecting property taxes, or sales and use tax and accommodations tax on behalf of the property owners and remitting them. They sent out an email stating that it was due to a law change, and that is incorrect. There's not been any law changes, so I contacted them and let them know that I actually got a hold of somebody at VRBO, which took forever, but they said that they've changed everybody's contract. And I asked how they had communicated that to people, and they said they would get back to me and let me know. They can't tell me how that was communicated to residents. I just wanted to make a public announcement that Town of Sunset Beach has not changed anything, and the state of North Carolina has not changed anything. VRBO has changed their business model, is what they told me, and that they're deciding to do this. So I just wanted, if anybody has any questions about that, absolutely call me, because I've talked to just about everybody I could possibly talk to, from the Department of Revenue to the company that VRBO is using to process these.
So how does that affect us? What,
I'm working with them on that, because
Okay.
some of the reportings are going to be a little bit funny, and the property owner is still the responsible party. But what VRBO told me today was that they may be sending out a communication to everybody saying that you will have to submit your own information to the town. They're just going to send a lump check, which I told them that I was not okay with, and we've been going back and forth. So
It sounds like VRBO is saying they have no responsibility. They'll collect the money, send the money to the owners, and it's the owner's responsibility
No.
to follow the laws.
it used to be.
Yeah.
That's how they were doing it. They were sending all the money to the property owner. The property owner had to submit to Department of Revenue, Brunswick County, and to us. Now VRBO is saying, we're going to hold on to that, and we're going to submit the taxes. What I foresee is a service fee coming down the road, because they want to offer this service, so they amended all of their contracts with everybody that's with them in the state of North Carolina. And but it's your responsibility to report. They said they have a on your website. I guess you can log in there and see what your gross receipts are and what your property taxes are, and so that you can tell if everything's been submitted. You have to submit that coupon still that we give out. You're just not sending a check with it. But I'm still working with them to see if I can get them to send us all of that information for all of the property owners that they're sending me a check for. At this point, they will not. So, but like I said, if anybody has any questions about that, absolutely call me. And then the budget amendment that we have is due to grant money that the police department has received.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to file a motion to approve the budget amendment number 2 to recognize grant and donations received by the police department.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Go home.
Have a good night.
Authorization to advertise the Fireman's Relief Fund board member.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to advertise Fireman Relief Fund board member.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Disposition of directives for the October 15th meeting. Waste Industries, we said we got,
11/19. I tried for the 15th, but he wasn't available, was out of town.
okay. ERC initial report,
No, they still have yet to have their first meeting, which is their organizational meeting, so they'll be determining their schedule on the 21st. And then from there, we'll know when the regular meeting is, so we could probably expect an initial report, probably December-ish.
okay. And the Beach Patrol report is scheduled for the 19th,
And it's still scheduled for that way.
okay.
I have a item to suggest or to think about. We had the concert series. We probably need to have some type of a feedback mechanism on what we did well, what didn't work well, what we need to change, so that we can have staff start working on next year. And do you have any ideas what the best way to do that is? Should we put it on the agenda, or you just?
I mean, I can come up with probably a Facebook poll or something, but there's really no way to poll all the tourists and everybody.
Well, I'm not
You can also
necessarily
talk to
talking about.
Cindy. Cindy to find out what she thinks is.
Well, I mean, we
between you
can do a
guys
few
and
things, like I said,
Lisa.
but getting like the general overall opinion of the ones who
Yeah.
showed up, it's hard to capture.
Well, what I'm getting at is a mechanism for us to hear, say, from staff,
Mhm.
how it worked, how you want to improve it for next year, what you need from the council, and then an endorsement and authorization to continue and go forward, so we can meet the advertising deadlines for the county Parks and Recreation, and other things like that, not be caught behind trying to book bands for the concerts with only several weeks to go before the season
Yeah.
started.
Hiram, this year we jammed it in so quickly. What's the lead time you need, Cindy?
We had already planned on doing something like this for the next night council meeting.
Okay.
But I mean, not like, not to that depth. I mean, we were just gonna report how the summer went, but if you want us to do a little bit more analysis on it, that's fine too.
Particularly what you need to move forward.
Well, you've already allocated for us to move forward, so
Yeah, we
Yeah.
already did that.
we'll look at a few other options and maybe if something needs to be addressed. But I mean, basically, it's gonna be advertising and direction from y'all about how many events. So, but we can come back to that next week. And that's all on the bullet list of what we're planning, so.
Good.
Yeah, and see whether we need.
Well, not next week, next meeting.
Because I think we probably ran that two concerts too long this year. We kind of, it was getting dark on us and, you know.
But we also started later, so
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I still think it's still too many.
Too many, yeah.
Yeah.
Or 3.
Well, I meant like the next night meeting. So whatever that is,
November 4th.
I can make it for the 15th. We'll try to hit the 15th if I can get the agenda items put together, but if not, we'll last possible date will be the 4th.
Okay. Public comments.
I'm gonna make this very brief, because
Tell 'em 3 minutes.
You guys have been through a lot here tonight.
This time I'm putting you on timer.
3 minutes.
No, I'm gonna try to not even take 3. I failed to mention, I hope you will understand, really what I need to speak with you is of a sensitive nature having to do with a prior board. And I'd rather have this first gone over privately. I'm sure that the town attorney, the town administrator, I know Mr. Serrato, and I don't know, haven't met you other, but I'm kind of impressed with you, Councilman, I must say here tonight. I don't know you that well. But anyway, there's a sensitive nature of a previous board back in the past, and it's not fair for me to voice this out here tonight publicly, because the situation is not exactly directly as a result of something that y'all put into play or what have you. So you'll have to understand, this is the nature of something, though it has been brought up many, many times, and I've addressed it here at these various meetings, and some of which was when Ed Gore would speak and I'd speak as far back as those times. With that said, I'd like to ask a question, though, back about when would be the, and I thought he did a nice job, Mr. Robert Neal, the consultant, do y'all, and one question is, do y'all meet with him privately with a planning as to this dredging, or does he report back to you, and what would be your occasion?
He reports back to us.
He report, are you expecting him back on the 15th?
He'll speak to Hiram separately. So
He'll probably speak to him?
He doesn't come regularly.
Okay. Well, what had started a little while ago and going to make a recommendation right now, I believe it would be for what he could work at the state capacity, if he had benefit of what I'm getting ready to say, could be moving this town really progressively. What has been, some people have spoken tonight about a holdup about this dredging. Takes a lot of things are involved with the state and federal government. So not to go lengthy with this, if we could have an input with this, with Mr. Neal, which I said I thought did a real nice job, where he has this input through you from a secondary standpoint. I was about to tell you folks that I had a meeting with Ed Gore, and we went over on the beach, and we were discussing about my long, about 35-year project. And that has to do with the high water marks over on Ocean Isle Beach, and high water marks all up and down to the Shalote Inlet on both sides of the Intercoastal Waterway, and proceeding all this vast estuaries all the way to South Carolina, to the state, where the two states came into play, and it goes further than this, my estuaries that I want to address here tonight, having to do with very pristine areas and techniques of knowing how to flush out and clean out those estuaries that you're could be spending some good sizable monies. And it goes all the way to Cherry Grove, by the way. It includes Wadis Island. There is nothing like this ever been done. It's about 20 miles of waterfront, pristine properties and areas to preserve. And it could be, if you guys cooperate with me, what Ed and I were, and I was the proposal to Ed Gore to do this, having to do with these dredging areas that you guys are tabling. I applaud you to the Hilton right now. For refurbishing what has been, and it's getting close to be a cesspool, folks. The state doesn't give a darn as much as you might think about protecting these water areas. And so
We can't do this now, though.
no, I'm just trying to give you a understanding. We'd like to put this on the agenda.
Okay. All right.
And so
You need to get with Hiram.
Yes, sir. That sounds very good.
And make an appointment with him with all your concerns. He's a town manager.
That's exactly what we'll do.
All righty, thank you.
Good deal. Fine meeting here tonight, folks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hi, Ruth. Go ahead. You're next.
Thank you. Ruth Reynolds, 703 North Shore Drive, Sunset Beach, of course. I just want to say that I was really appalled by the way a citizen, which happens to be one of the owners of the market as well, how they were treated while they were here speaking. And I was more surprised that the bullying was allowed. It was kind of really embarrassing. And this fiasco tonight with the market is a case where action speaks louder than words. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Glenn Evans, and it's 1201 North Shore Drive, Sunset. And I was sort of interested tonight to hear the stormwater report, because I think Hiram and I met at the end of Cobia, where we had some storm damage from the street or from the road that breached a bulkhead. And I knew that you told me you were going to put it in front of the council when we had our last discussion, and I was just interested in knowing, if you had or what we had discussed, what you had discussed.
John was going to mention during the report, but since we went home, Mr. Evans is for us to fix his bulkhead, which blew out during the storm.
What's your address again?
1201 North Shore.
His claim,
and I actually,
it's right beside where the Cobia dead ends, at the bulkhead.
Okay.
There's some erosion in there. His claim is that it's runoff from the pavement. There's no proof of that, but there are about 4 or 5 other blowouts of the same bulkhead on both sides of Riverside and on North Shore. There's no proof of what happened which way. His claim is that the erosion led to a blowout underneath. It doesn't even go to the pavement. My claim is that we don't know. Both parties are responsible for their damages.
Bulkheads have been in the past considered private property.
They are.
Okay? So why are we discussing this?
Mr. Evans would like to know. John didn't have a chance to bring this up to y'all's attention to see if y'all would like to approach it in the future.
It's painful, but we have to respect private property, and we have to respect taxpayer money, not subsidizing and benefit private property.
Mr. Evans, has it
my question to you is, when this street was paved, what was your stormwater drainage permit and process or whatever? Because these pictures clearly show that the water came down that street on that pavement, and the washout started.
Which is not entirely true. There's no way to prove that, first of all. But secondly, I just want to point out real quick that, like I said, there are other blowouts, the direction of the wind and everything. We don't know what happened there that night.
The water came, I mean, the bulkhead blew out into
But I was
the
gonna
channel.
answer his question
It didn't
real
come
quick
back. So, I mean, it was pushed from the
Mr. Evans, you
street
have pictures
side
of the
part.
water draining into the bulkhead?
Right here.
No, he's got an aftermath, but nothing draining.
No, not the drainage problem.
My point, though, still is to answer your question on what the road design was. The engineers did not install any stormwater protections because, based on the state and CAMA, none was required. Because there's no additional impervious surface being added based on their determination that the road prior had already been compacted enough to be considered impervious.
So there's no drainage at the end of Cobia there?
Not on top of the surface of the
None.
street. Nowhere else would have there been either.
Do we plan on putting one there later on the stormwater?
We're already talking about putting weeps in the bulkhead.
What?
Weeps in the bulkhead to let water, the hydrostatic forces stabilize. But again, these blowouts are in the bottom of the bulkheads, all up and down the area. I mean, other places not next to roads blew out the same storm the same night.
And that's fine, and I understand what you're saying. All right, you have no proof, I have no proof. All right, when are you guys, we're a month past time, when are you guys gonna correct the problem? Because I'm losing a tree that I had a landscaper come tie up there now. My yard is continuing to erode because of your side that is still breached.
And they've placed it on their to-do list as they can get to it, and it's hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Can we see if we can pick that up?
I've already asked John to do it last week to see if he can get it faster in the schedule. It's just, again, a manpower problem. It's 2 people in that department.
Okay, but John's aware of it, and we're also.
Public Works has been busy with the storm debris pickup, so now that we can get people together, they can actually start to work on it.
Okay.
Do I understand we're gonna pay for
When two
this?
people are talking at the same
No,
time.
we're gonna fix
like-
our part. We've got eroded out area around the road, but not actually against the road. So the road's not being undermined, so that's why they didn't pull Public Works off of storm debris.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm with him. I'm Nancy Evans.
Not with it.
I just wish you all would go take a look at this because, and I don't know the last time you went, Hiram, but it is to the pavement now and it's going under the road. And that is your property that, is being compromised along with ours. I mean, we're losing our yard. And the last time we were here, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and it has, you really can't tell from the pictures, but it was like maybe 10 feet, now it's 15, being more eroded. And I do believe that if this dredging goes through, all of the dredging material is going to come out at the end of Cobia. And the way it looks now, I don't know how much is going to be overflowing and everything, but I think that whole area could be affected. I just wish you could take a look at it. If it were your property, you would be saying the same thing.
I'll call John and take a look at it with him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Meeting's adjourned.